Anna, why should you be a business owner?
Um, from my experience and from what's been going on with me lately, being a business owner is, I don't know, I feel like there's a whole other side that not a lot of people see. And that's what I've been able to like accomplish is being able to be on the other side of what no one sees, you know? Like ever since I started, my mentality has been like off the roof. Like I'm always so positive, and that's not just because of business, but because of God. I feel like He's been able to give me that like positive mindset in order to help attract others into my business.
Right.
You know, being a business owner is important because you don't want to work for someone else forever. So that's something I learned too. Um, just being able to create your own schedule, like that sounds nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like being able to do your own stuff while making money behind you, like I think that's important,
Yeah.
especially right now.
Absolutely. Jim Rohn has a quote that says, make goals that make something of you in the process of achieving them. And it seems like your ability to stay positive is partially because of the business,
Yeah.
but because of what you're seeking and what you're trying to pursue and get, it's kind of moving you in a way to be able to stay and maintain positive. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
What was the beginning sort of, so myself in particular, I was the person who pain had to be inflicted upon me so that way I can start taking action and start making a change in my life. What was that flip of the switch for you to be able to go out and start a business for yourself?
Um, Starting a business for myself, um, I feel like with everything I've gone through in life, I feel like, because I'm the oldest of 10. Yeah, so I feel like that's a lot of pressure on me. And since I have that pressure on me, why not make something good out of it, you know? Not stressing over how many siblings I have, but trying to make a better future for myself so I could expand it to them. So
Okay.
I feel like being able to do all that, and they see me as a role model. They look up to me. I don't know how many eyes is it, but I don't know how many eyes it is, but they for sure look up to me. And I feel like being able to do good stuff for them will attract them to do the same thing and follow in my footsteps.
Yeah. And it seems like you're already doing that. You know,
I
it
hope
seems like
so.
you're already a
Yeah.
really good role model for them. Can you tell me what the 100,000th club ring represents? I saw it on one of your stories.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, let me think. Um, that's actually a ring that my company gives out to the people who hit six figures. So when I put that on from my brokers, it makes me feel like I'm not there yet, but I could be if I put in the work.
Absolutely.
And I feel like with that ring, I could show others that it is possible to do stuff like that in life. But we're like, the world teaches us to just stay at 9 to 5s, and with that ring, you could show others that it's not always going to be working for someone else. You could do that by yourself. You could get that ring by yourself. And with our company, like they support you so much. Like it's not like, oh my gosh, why are you trying so hard? Like they actually support you in what you do. There's people out there in the world that hate on you for that, but that's because they're not there. They hate to see you succeed, but you have to be surrounded by people who will actually support you in that.
I want to see you win. I want to see you do
Exactly.
better. Yeah. So then, what? One of the hardest things that I've heard is to be able to make $100,000 in 1 year is extremely hard. So, what are the challenges or the things that you need to do in order to get there for yourself?
Mm, so right now I'm a full-time student in college, and from what I hear, I feel like school is a backup plan for me, and my business is like my first way of getting out of poverty. But since I'm the first gen, like I'm the first one to go to college in my family, so I want to achieve that. Like I want to be able to say like, yes, I graduated school, college or whatever, and I was still able to make six figures in something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just how I see it. like life doesn't get easier, but we become better. So I feel like if we put that effort, we're able to achieve anything, to be honest.
Yeah. And I like that you bring up school at the moment, because I had a young gentleman at the gym ask me, he said, coming outside of high school and going into college, do you recommend me staying in college or just going out and pursue my career? And it seems like at the moment we have a big distaste for college and young adults getting into college, and they feel a sense of pressure in trying to figure out what their career is going to be. So I like that you mentioned that you're going to school at the moment as well. So then what piece of advice would you give to individuals who are also trying to, like you said, get out of poverty, but also feel the need or want to go to school? What would you say to them?
Me personally, I never liked school, but like I said, I want to still achieve that because it would just look good on me, you know? But a piece of advice, probably just to do what you feel is right. School is not always the answer. Maybe you're probably forced to go by parents. And yes, like I said, it's still possible to go to school and still do other stuff you like. But I feel like school isn't the only option, especially right now. Like, business owners are skyrocketing right now. And I definitely agree on that because I see it. Like, there's people who graduated from college and they didn't even use their degree. It's just another paper in their drawers. So I feel like if you actually put in the work and you take risk, you could accomplish that. Like, my whole main point, school is not the only option.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing that I've been learning over the time, because I also agree with that too. I remember at a younger age, I didn't feel the need or feel the want to go to school.
Right.
Nowadays, though, if I can go to school, I know I'd be a good student just based off of the mentality and the productivity that I have. One thing, though, that I will say is if you can go to school and be able to get your degree really quick. Let's say you do your 4 years, you get in, you get out, and then you have a place of, you're making, for example, let's say you're making over 6 figures from a job that you don't necessarily love,
Right.
but it keeps you stable, right? So then that way, once you're able to stay within a stable time zone or even balance, you can then start taking action on your escape from poverty. I like that you said escape from poverty. I'm going to keep using that. But I totally agree with you. 9-to-5s aren't always it, because we make the decisions based on what we feel is necessary at that time.
Yeah.
And we only have so many examples of what we have. We don't have an entire blueprint. So I love the answer. 9-to-5s aren't always the option. If that is your only option, don't feel the need to bemoan it or dislike it. Just know that it's a sort of a campfire before you set off into whatever it is you're going off into.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So then, aside from, you mentioned it before, being able to make your own schedule or being able to work remote and, be your own boss. Aside from those benefits, what are the benefits of being an entrepreneur?
I would probably say the benefits of being an entrepreneur is breaking family curses. I feel like within my family, I feel like there's a lot of people who go through this, but within mine, it's always been poverty. So I want to be the change in that and show that it is possible. And I could be the change for the future generations. So that's a good question.
Yeah. So it's not just benefits in a physical or external way. It's more so internal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm able to show my family that it's not just the same cycle. Go to school, graduate. Like I said before, it's like you could do anything in the world as long as you're able to commit and take risk.
Yeah, totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I think another thing when it comes to family sometimes, this is not me making an assumption, this is kind of me going based off of my own experience, but you can have a change in mindset and attitude, But if they don't see the evidence, which is
Exactly.
money, they're not going to listen to you. They won't believe you. They won't understand or really believe in your vision on what you set out to do.
Yeah.
But if you have that evidence, which is money, then they'll likely believe it and be able to really start to question themselves. But then another thing too is once you start making changes for yourself, whether it's business, whether it's school, whether it's going to the gym or whatever it is, that's when people start to question themselves. Well, if they're doing this,
Right.
so can I.
It goes both ways.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
And that's the rocky part about a business. Like, you start from scratch. You don't have nothing to offer, and that's the hard part.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to stay long enough, you'll see results, and then everyone else will follow along with you.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree with you. There's this thing with that I write down. It's called I haven't named it yet, but it's called, pretty much what it is when you start in a business, all you have is a stick, you have bricks on your feet because you made sandals with them, and you're walking on a trail that is nothing but desert, grain, and sand. And it's a hot day, but all you're doing is you're kind of involved in a time where it's just harsh. It's rough. It's a dry climate. But if you just keep walking on this path, eventually the weather's going to get better. Eventually you're going to get a backpack. Eventually you're going to get a sweater. Eventually you're going to get shoes. Eventually, so it all just improves over a set course of time. So yeah, totally.
That's a good perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then, okay. So I had a business from November 2022 up until April 2024. And man, I miss those days because I learned a lot about myself and what I'm capable of, like the capacity and the fuel that I have from day to day. And there's a lot of things that contribute to your success. It's like waking up early in the morning, deciding to just comment on all these posts or whatever it is, right? I'm curious as to what was your day-to-day process before you had your overnight success?
Before the business, I used to have 3 jobs. So I feel like that should show everything. Like I'm a very overachiever. Even if it was working 7 a.m. to 5 in the afternoon, I was willing to commit to that because I felt like that was the only option. So my overnight success probably was being able to get results from my business now. I feel like being able to make money within an hour and not 10 shows a big difference.
Absolutely.
And from my business, I was able to make a certain amount in 1 hour rather than waiting 2 weeks. No one wants to wait 2 weeks for a paycheck. That's actually insane.
Yeah.
And that's something I definitely learned. I thought, oh my gosh, yes, I get paid in 2 weeks. But now that I have the opportunity to get paid overnight, I feel like that shows the hard work I put in.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a trippy thing, right? When you get paid, in one day, what you could have gotten paid in 2 weeks. I was like, what?
Relax.
I'm never going back to a job again.
Exactly.
Yeah. I remember I was at a grocery store with my dad once, and this guy just sent me $500. With my business, obviously.
Yeah.
And then, what did I say? I was I had the groceries in my hand, and I remember dropping them, and I was like, and then I put them all on the table. I was like, get more stuff, Dad, get more stuff. And then I paid for the groceries.
We got money right now.
Yeah. Good times. For real. Yeah. Okay. So then this is a quote by you. Learn your place in people's life so you don't overplay your part. What does that mean to you?
That's actually a quote that really stuck to me last night because my whole life I kissed everyone's butt. That was my thing. I made sure everyone was on my good side. I made sure I was on their good side. And I just wanted to feel that comfort, that love, whether it was a relationship or a friendship. And I've now learned that you can't find that in another human. It all comes down to God. He's the only person that could give you that comfort and love that I've been seeking for my whole life.
Yeah.
And that's not something I learned till recently. So God makes us go through things so that we could grow from it and show others that it's possible to not feel that way either. And it was a long time that I did that. So I feel that I'm actually very grateful that I went through that stuff. I've been bullied almost my whole life. Well, more younger, of course. I've been picked on. You couldn't name it. I've been through it. And I used to ask God why, but now I know why. Because he showed me that, like, I could come out of that if I let him. Like, I can't do that on my own. Like we mentioned before, like, you can't do stuff on your own. It has to be with him. So that's something that really attracted me, is not being able to overplay your part in someone else's life, because you're never going to meet those standards. They're always going to be like, oh, it's still not enough. Try harder. And that's not what we're here on earth for. We're not here to satisfy people. We're here to achieve our goals and our dreams. So overplaying a part in someone else's life could honestly drain you mentally and physically. And that's something I had to learn the hard way.
Thank you for sharing that. I had Nelson on 2-3 weeks ago, and he used to tell me that he did the same thing. And it's something I do all the time.
Right.
Which was, after a day of hanging out with your friends, you question, was I right? Was I talking the right way? Did I act good? And that, exactly what you said, is just mentally draining, up to the point where it's like, who are you at that point?
Right. Exactly.
And what I've been learning with God recently is you need to stay away from fleshly desires. And one of the fleshly desires is being liked by other people. And you need to, upon them questioning what God is, or you need to speak up and be bold in order to showcase that you are a man of God. And then just speak in his way, so that way they can have that perspective, right? Yeah. What are some things it seems like you've already learned a lot from God, but when it comes to God, I think there's just always so much more to learn.
I could talk about him forever. Yeah. He's amazing.
Yeah. What was the sort of, kind of like the other question I asked before, what was that moment where you decided to get into God a bit more?
I'm going to tell you a funny story. My grandma, like I said before, I grew up in church. My grandma, my mom, they follow the same God I do. So it's always been there, you know? And there's an Old Testament and a New Testament, right? And my grandma, she would quiz me, because she knew I had potential. She knew I would be someone in life, and I didn't realize that till now. Like, I have so much potential. I just need to go for it, you know? But she would quiz me on the Old and New Testament. I had to name every single book, or I can't come into the house.
Wow.
Yeah, so okay. It's like, whoa, I'm only 6.
It's raining outside.
I'm like, wait, help me. But yeah, it's just something that I will always remember, because I'm very grateful that she did that. It sounds weird to someone who doesn't believe in God. Like, why would she do that? Why would she leave you outside? Mm-hmm. But it wasn't really like on purpose. Like, it wasn't really like in a bad way. It was like just a quiz, like to keep me on track, you know, to keep me going. And I love her.
That's accountability.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's discipline, being able to learn something that's important, that actually matters, you know? Mm-hmm. And I feel like getting closer to God, for me, it's unexplainable, honestly. Like, my testimony is so big. I could go on with him forever. Mm-hmm. I could name so many stories that I've been through, and I'm still here. I'm still sitting here because of him. So, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. We have 30 days left in the year. What can I do today to be able to give myself momentum going into the new year to start a business venture?
That's crazy. This year went by really fast.
Super.
I was like, whoa, relax. But I think it all comes down to mentality. Especially right now, we're old enough to make our own decisions. So as for me, my like mentality is all I could say. Like it all starts when the first, like literally right when you wake up in the morning. Are you gonna wake up in a good mood or in a bad mood? And that explains the rest of your day. So I feel like emotions do play a big part in our day-to-day lives. And being able to run a business that way, it takes a lot. It takes a lot. And just like for example, I don't see results every single day. And that bothers me because I know I could bring those results in, but I didn't. And that messes me up in my head because I knew I could have done better, you know? And your emotions don't deposit money into your bank account. So I feel like you need to be able to make that decision on how you're going to make money in order to accomplish your goals for 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't let your emotions hold dominion over your actions.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And that's a hard thing to do sometimes. It's hard when you wake up early in the morning and you just don't physically feel like getting up, but you decide to do it anyway, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most important things about... I think people would label that as hustle culture, but it's so critical to be able to get past those days and leap over those walls, because the more you start doing it for yourself, the more you gain clarity and peace of mind that you are what you say you are, and that the ideas that you have, you are willing to take action on them. And yeah, it's just so critical. I couldn't agree more.
And that's really important because especially for people who go through poverty, you can't speak poverty language and expect wealth out of it. You have to learn how to create a good and positive mindset in order to attract even yourself. Like, oh, I feel good today. Let's go get results, you know? And I think that's so important. Yeah. So,
positivity is just undefeated in comparison to negativity. I think negativity is very strong, but there is nothing that can defeat positive attitude. Yeah. And then you're more likable.
Exactly.
If you have sorry to cut you off, but if you have the discipline and that mindset right now, but you're just negative, you're not going to get as many opportunities as the person with the exact same mindset, but is positive.
Yeah, no one wants to be around that.
Yeah.
So you would definitely get no opportunities with others.
Yeah. So then I saw another one of your notes today. You said, no message is a message, and no action is an action. What do you mean by that?
I actually put that because I just love quotes. They mean so much. Like, there's so much meaning behind it, and it's just like 3 words.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but it all, like, the way you read a quote is how you think. I feel like that shows a lot. People could think that as a relationship, but for me, that quote was my day-to-day life. Like, being able to connect with others, and like, I get a lot of no's in my business, but all those no's will lead me to yeses. And a no message, right, is a message. So I feel like being able to understand why people say no to you is important. You can't force someone to think the same way you do. It's impossible because at the end of the day, it's their decision, you know? And no action is an action. Like I said before, I've always, my whole life, I've always like tried to get people to like me and stuff like that. And I feel like you shouldn't have to do that in order to succeed. You'll find the right people will come to you. So as long as you're putting in the work, you're going to attract the same people who think like you. You don't have to force that mentality on them because they already think the same way you do.
Yeah. And then I think I read it from 4 Agreements, but the more you try and change somebody, it also shows that there's not a necessary love connection that you have with them, because if you're just trying to force somebody to change, it just doesn't mean you love them.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, I like that idea that the more you start taking action within your own pursuits and your own ventures, the more likely you're just going to bump into somebody who's thinking about the same thing, doing the same thing. Yeah. And that contributes a lot. How would you say being around that sort of emotion, that feeling, being around those people that are similar minded as you, how has that changed your trajectory in your business life?
I had a very poor mindset before my business. I always thought like after everything I have been doing, whether it was working the 3 jobs or trying harder in school, I still end up in the same area. It's like the harder I try, it's like it just beats me back down because I didn't do good enough. Like I just start overthinking, like, why am I not getting anything out of this? And being able to be around people who think the way you do, it changes a lot because you don't feel alone. Then you don't feel beat down. They actually bring you back up. So it's like it's an amazing experience being able to make connections that way because they're there to help you, you know? And I like that because not a lot of people have good friends. They just like backstab you or they do things that they want, even if it hurts your feelings. They're not going to care about that. So it's important to surround yourself around good people because it gets you somewhere.
Yeah. Authenticity too is like one of the more important values that I have. So seeing other people who are also embracing that value is very cherishing. Mm-hmm. I think one of the reasons I would say I like failed, quote unquote. My therapist tells me not to say fail.
It's okay.
One of the bigger reasons why I would say that is because I didn't have a camaraderie of people who I can surround myself who were also of the same mind. I had the people online, but when you're not physically around people who show that care or are authentic or share the same values or also doing the same things, it can make you question why you're doing the things that you're doing, even if you have a strong purpose and a strong why towards reaching it. So I'm glad to hear that you have people in your base to be able to go to when times are rough, but also kind of understand what it is you're going through because they're also dealing with it as well.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't know what happens behind closed doors, so it's important to be kind to everyone and being able to understand why they're there and why they started.
Yeah. Totally important. So then I know you said you've been doing school recently, so what is your perspective on it now? I know you said you didn't like it before. How has it changed since then?
I still want to finish it, of course. I'm still not a big fan of it. And one of the first reasons why I didn't like school is because I've always had a hard time in it. I sat in class, everyone was doing their work, and I was like, how do you do this? Like, I felt so out of like place. Especially in math. Oh my gosh, don't get me started on that subject. Who even created that? Like, I hate math. And that was one of the main subjects. Like, just sitting there and seeing that everyone else was doing the work and I couldn't. It honestly hurt my feelings because then I thought, like, what am I even doing here? Like, what is my purpose in life if I'm not good at math?
Yeah.
Or any subject, honestly. But being able to find out your actual potential outside of school is very like life-changing because now I have other options. I have other opportunities to run to rather than just thinking it's only school. That's the only option because that's what we grew up thinking.
Yeah. Especially
our parents. They always say, go to school. That's how you're going to get money. And after a while, especially in the business, I realized that it's not the only option. But I still choose to do that because I want to accomplish that area. It will honestly satisfy me, even if I don't finish with even if I don't get a career out of that diploma, I still will feel accomplished because I've had a hard time before with school. So accomplishing that would make me feel a lot better.
So much better.
Yeah.
Because it's just another thing that was originally uncomfortable.
Exactly.
It was something, when you didn't know how to do math, but you decided to, okay, I'm going to figure out how to do my times tables, how to do this, my parentheses, PEMDAS. And then once you overcome that, it's just like another challenge to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you just overcome all these leaps and all these walls, the more self-esteem you feel, the more confident you feel. And then you can start taking those feelings over to your business and just flourish from there.
Yeah, and something I noticed from other business owners is they're either just as smart as me, or like everyone's in a different level of smartness, of like knowing how much knowledge you have, And I've seen people with like less knowledge with me, and like you don't have to be smart in order to accomplish something. Like your smartness, everything you've learned over the years, even if you didn't learn anything, that has nothing to do with what you want to do in life later on. Yeah. It all comes down to you. What do you want to do? And you pursue it. You don't have to be smart to start your own business.
1000%. Emerson has a really good quote, and I gotta find it real quick. He says, Emerson. Pretty much how it goes, everyone is my boss because the things that I can learn from him are things that I don't know of myself.
Oh, I heard that one before. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah. And it's true. I think there's a lot, literally everyone you meet, even if they're like the dumbest person ever, you're still going to learn something from them regardless. Right. Yeah. Well, Anahi, this was super fun. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you considering hopping onto the Eccentric Mind podcast.
Of course.
Where can we find you?
I have Instagram. He could put it in the link and the bio if you want. And then I have TikTok. I have all platforms just because that's how I prospect with my business. So you can find me on a lot of things.
Amazing. And what is it that you want to say to the people that are watching? Perhaps potential clients, or go ahead and roll out the red carpet.
That's good. Let me see. Okay. To end this podcast, in order to win, you need to do what others won't do. So that's something I learned in my business. You have to learn how to become that 1% that you, like, if you want to succeed, become that 1% that the 99 won't do. And that's with any area of your life.
Totally agree. Words of wisdom by Anahi. Anahi, once again, thank you so much for hopping onto the podcast.
Of course.
This has been the Eccentric Mind with George Hernandez. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a fantastic day.